All right, folks. Let me just make sure here that we are actually live and that we're good to go. Hmm. So I'm trying out a few things in terms of in terms of encoding and streaming and everything that's going on here. So I changed up my settings a little bit. So I'm gonna trust you folks on the stream to kind of help guide me and make sure that everything sort of looks okay and that we're sort of rolling here, and that we are able to that things look clear on the screen and everything looks good. With that, again, as always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining again for another session of getting started with data analytics using F Sharp, where we're going to continue working on analyzing the Arxiv Dataset. If you folks aren't familiar with, or you haven't watched the previous streams, the past two streams we've been sort of inspired by a Reddit post that was like, hey, how do I get started with data analytics using F Sharp? I am sort of, I've done Python, but even if it's a little bit more, takes a little bit more work, or maybe it doesn't have all the libraries, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course. But even if it's there's a little bit more pain with working with F Sharp, I would prefer that over Python. So we started a series on getting started with doing data analytics with F Sharp. And the past two streams, what we've been doing is we've been essentially setting up the infrastructure. Now, of course, you don't have to do any of the things that we've done. So if you don't necessarily want to do what we've done in the past two streams, that's totally okay, because all these tools you can actually, for example, .NET Interactive and Jupyter Notebooks, you can run them on your own PC. The thing is that we have a lot of data. There's reasons why I'm not doing this on my PC. Number one is because I'm streaming, right? So there's my computer's already taking up resources just on the stream itself. So I don't want to sort of bog down my PC with additional processing if I don't have to, right? So for that reason, what I did was I went ahead and I set up a virtual machine on Azure where I installed the .NET SDK, I installed the Anaconda packages, Jupyter Notebooks, which we're going to be using here to explore the Arxiv dataset. And we are going to, essentially install .NET Interactive as well to explore data and to do some data analytics. Okay, but before I get started, again, kind of a little bit of housekeeping, and I also apologize for starting a little bit late today. Again, there's a few things that I've been tweaking with the settings, so it took me a little bit longer to sort of get started. Anyway, so a few things over the weekend. As always, I think this is a really great resource. Sergey's blog, F Sharp Weekly, where it's just a roundup of not although it's called F Sharp Weekly, it really is essentially it's a roundup of .NET news, right? It tends to be a little bit more F Sharp centric, but again, there's, for example, .NET 5 Preview 8, right? That's .NET and C Sharp source generator samples. Those are .NET news, right? They're not specific to F Sharp, so it's a really great collection of things that Sergey puts together and collects over the week. Some things that are particularly interesting, few actually, that pertain to the things that we are interested in, or the things that we talk about on this blog. Sorry, on the stream. There's new things, new features that came out for ML.NET. Let's see. Still loading. Wow. right? So some things that are new with ML.NET, right? So a lot of things, a lot of really good things. One of them is there are these new algorithms for anomaly detection and working with time series data. So great, this is really cool. And there are trade-offs, of course, right? So one algorithm, it's a bit one of the new algorithms that was introduced, which is this one here, right? The detect entire anomaly by SRCNN. It's faster, right? But the problem is that basically all your data has to be loaded into memory, right? So that's a trade-off. You can run faster if you have all the data in memory. So that's a trade-off right there, right? But if you're able to get that working, right, or if that's a scenario that it's good enough for your purposes, then definitely go ahead and use that. There is the ranking scenario. It's been added to the automated machine learning tooling or API, right? So now you can take advantage of that. There's been some updates to the text loader, but really the most important part is, or I don't want to say the most important, but a huge addition was the fact that you can now use GPUs locally for training. So before you could use GPUs, but you had to leverage Azure, right? And that's great because with Azure you can scale, right? You can scale and sort of distribute your workload, and you're not necessarily using your PC, right? But if you would like to prototype and you have a GPU locally, you can go ahead and for image classification scenarios, you can take advantage of the speed up that you get from using a GPU for training purposes, and you can do this locally. Let's see where to show that the metrics have. Hey John. So the question is, have you ran ranking in AutoML yet? I'm seeing a weird issue that the metrics haven't been implemented. Yeah, that's interesting. No, I haven't had the chance yet. Because I have yet to find a really good scenario. I mean, there are scenarios where ranking is definitely the thing to use, but personally, I have yet to find a scenario where I need it, right? But I do. But that's definitely something to look into, and I'm sure that you've already sort of maybe asked a question on the repo, right? Yeah, but that's something interesting to look at. I haven't had a chance to run it yet. Thanks for bringing that up though, because that's not something that I was aware of. Um, yeah, so that's essentially what's going on with ML.NET and the latest features. So definitely go ahead, give that a try. TensorFlow.NET release candidate. Oh, this is an interesting one. So in ML.NET, we use or ML.NET leverages TensorFlow.NET, right? And that's not to be confused with this TensorFlow for .NET, right? And TensorFlow.NET, it's a set of C# bindings, right, for the TensorFlow API, right? And this is TensorFlow.NET is a community. It's open source. It's built on .NET Standard, I believe, and it's maintained by the community, right? Recently, though, there was this announcement, which is interesting. It's nice to see the competition and different models out there, right? I don't want to say competition, but just it's nice to see options, right, and different models for working with this technology. And it's really great that these technologies are being brought into the .NET ecosystem, right? So Gradient, which I believe is a company that they kind of specialize on sort of the ML ops space, and just making the workflows for developers and for data scientists, making the workflows of taking something from prototype all the way to production, trying to facilitate that, have come out with this thing here, which is very similar, I believe. I haven't really read too much on it, but it says that it's a C# bindings for TensorFlow. So it seems like it's very similar to what TensorFlow.NET is doing, right? Where they're providing bindings for TensorFlow. And they also have it for Keras, it appears. The difference, though, from my understanding, is that this one has a commercial, right? You can integrate with Unity ML agents. There it is, right? The difference is that this product or offering offers commercial support, right? So as opposed to TensorFlow.net, with its community sponsored and community supported, this one offers some commercial support. Now, I haven't tried it myself, so I wouldn't really know. I couldn't tell you about my experience with it, but like I said, it's definitely interesting to see that more offerings are coming into the .NET space, right? And that can only be good for .NET developers, right? Depending on what their needs are, right? So this is really awesome. Something else that I thought was really interesting, and I posted it. So Philip Carter spoke at NDC Oslo, this year, and he did a talk called F# as a better Python, which I was like, haha, I am validated. No, but I just thought it was really cool, and this is in no way is Philip bashing Python. There's a lot to really like about Python. There's a lot to a lot if you're able to interface with Python. If you're able to interface .NET with F#, and that's something that's kind of alluded to in this talk, right? For example, if you're doing something and Python has better libraries for doing something, right? Of course, you want to use a tool that gets the job done. But then if there's a way that F# or .NET in general works better with these other libraries or performs these other processes much faster and much better, it would be nice to do those processes and those operations using .NET, right? So, and if there was a world where both of them could kind of come together, while at the same time each performing or getting some of the capabilities inside of F#, that make working in Python such a joy to use, right? It would be great, right? It would be a really, really nice experience. So I highly encourage you to check out this talk. And actually, as I'm saying all this stuff, I'm just gonna paste these links into the chat. You know what I should get going? I should get what's it called? Basically what they use for the .NET Foundation community stand-ups, which is just like one link and then you paste all the stream links. Anyway, yeah, that would be interesting. So John here says, would be interested to try. When I first saw it, I thought it was TensorFlow.NET implementation of TSO. Yeah, the announcement too. Like, and I always got confused because I read this article before, but from the title of the article and kind of how it shows up here, I was like, oh, it's the folks from SciSharp, right, announcing that TensorFlow 2.0, it's good to go, right? But no, this is again, I don't want to call it a competitor. I would say it's another option, right? It's another option in the space, right? So again, like I said, it's really great to see this, and I think again, I don't think that the fact there it is. So here's kind of like something that might be interesting to folks, right? So I think that this is, I don't know if it's open source, but so it's completely free for individuals and small businesses. But if you're an enterprise, you get a pay-as-you-go license, and you can also, I think, get commercial support with it, right? So it's really nice where you get both. If you're doing your individual projects, it sounds like you're not going to be charged for it. But at the same time, if you want that support, like you want somebody, if something goes wrong, you want somebody to call, right? And enterprises, they prefer that, right? Because something goes wrong, right? You need to have, you can't spend the time, digging through GitHub issues and all types of things, hoping that there's some solution to your problem. So yeah, it's like I said, it's another option. It's another option, so it's great to see the more coming to the space. John, yeah, that would be really nice. John says he'll make a note to do a video on it. Yeah, like I said, I haven't tried it yet, so I'm not quite sure what the differences are, but yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. Let's see here. Okay, so F# is better Python with Philip. Make sure to check that out. Shameless plug. I have been away from the blog for a really, really long time. Part of it has been it's just it's been a busy summer, which it's a good problem to have, right? With different projects and things like that. But I've been away from the blog, and this weekend it was very productive. I took the time to play and tinker and do things, and I believe it was last stream what I told you folks, that you have the option to uh, you could another way to do what we've done the past two streams instead of setting up your own VM and install all the dependencies and start from scratch. One of the options that you have is you can use Azure Machine Learning Compute Instances, or which I think under the hood they leverage this other product called Data Science Virtual Machines, right? And what these are exactly what it sounds like. They are virtual machines which already have all of the dependencies and software that you would typically need to work with data science and machine learning. So these things include Docker, Jupyter Notebooks, Anaconda, Jupyter Lab, you name it, right? Scikit. It has all these things sort of pre-packaged for you. Now, the reason I didn't go that route originally was because I didn't want to have to tie in to all the other things that come with it, right? So what that means is when you work with Azure Machine Learning, you essentially have to use or provision a workspace. And what a workspace is, you can think of it as just like a logical collection where of it's a logical resource that sort of collects all of your resources and assets that you use as part of your machine learning project and your machine learning development cycle, right? So that includes running the experiments, logging the metrics, having a model registry for storing your trained models, having some sort of web interface where you can do all these things, a place where you can store and version your data sets. So all these things, right, come with it. It's really all bolts. Everything's included. Right, and as part of that, it means that you're also provisioning an Azure Key Vault, you're provisioning an Azure Storage account, you're provisioning an Azure Container Registry. So these are all resources that we weren't going to need for our purposes, which is why I kind of shied away from going, even though it might have been easier to work with. I went to shy away from it because I wasn't going to be using those resources anyway. Right. However, I did go ahead and put together this guide for folks who may be interested in trying that experience. And it's essentially the thing that we've been doing the past two stream, which is setting up our environment. You can do it really easily with these Azure Machine Learning Compute Instances. And compute instances are essentially these single VMs that you're supposed to. The main intent of it is to be used as your sort of development environment. And it's really easy. It's literally just a matter of installing the .NET SDK, installing .NET Interactive just like you would on your local PC. And the only thing that's slightly different is you have to add the .NET Tools path. Here. You have to add the .NET Tools path to this etc environment file, which is used by systemd. So the Jupyter server that's running, it automatically it's run by a systemd process, or it runs as a systemd service, right? Because it's on a Linux PC or on a Linux VM. And as a result, the environment path used by that service originally doesn't include the .NET Tools directory as part of that. So you just have to add that, restart your systemd service, and you're good to go. Easy, super easy. So I highly encourage you to take a look. Again, shameless plug. And another shameless plug. So Dave here has this newsletter that comes out, .NET Stacks. And essentially, he basically interviews different folks, and posts some of his own, experiments and things like that he does. It's partly his blog, but there's like a newsletter component to it. And for this edition, or for the next two publications, right? He sort of, we sat down and sort of put this together, and it's essentially. If it's pretty long. So there's this question. I was like, why ML.NET over other tech? And as you will see, for me, it was like an ode to ML.NET and the .NET ecosystem. So if you're interested in seeing remotely interested in seeing what my thoughts are on the space and on the tooling and on the framework, yeah, I would highly encourage you to check it out. And again, this is just mine, but again, there's tons of sort of publications that Dave has put together from other folks, so you get to hear from different folks through these posts. So I would highly encourage you to subscribe to the newsletter and check out any future posts, as well as I think you might be able to go back and see some of his older posts. So highly encourage you to take a look. All right. So with that said, analyzing data with F#. So last time we left off and we downloaded the data and we just left it running. So I guess now it's time to, it's almost like we are farming or something like that, where we oh, interesting. Okay, fine. Where we sort of left this thing, and excuse me for a second, I believe I have to take this call. Oh, never mind. Didn't get it in time. Whatever. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our terminal, our trusty terminal. And you folks let me know if this is too small to see, if it ever shows up. I hope that is rendering okay for folks. All right, what we're doing. We were going to check our no, I don't want to browse as guest. Is this all I can do? Sorry, folks. So for folks, if you ever have a presentation or you're doing anything, there's this thing here where you can browse as guest, so that your history, bookmarks, whatever, don't show up. So I would highly encourage you to sort of use that. But now it seems like I can't go the other way back. So I can't go the other way around. Like I can't just open up another session. I guess it's forcing me to use it as a guest. So let me exit out of these things. Hey, user to you. Thanks for joining. I also didn't mention, or forgot to mention, that we did the, I think it was successful, pretty successful, the machine learning community stand-up last Wednesday. I thought it went well for the first one, and I'm looking forward to the next version of that. Oh, you got to be kidding me. All right, let's see. Why doesn't... Oh, okay. So I think... No, this ain't it. This is not it. Give me a few seconds here. I'm hoping... There we go. All right. So this should log us into that VM, if it's still running. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the address of the VM that we set up on Azure, but I guess this one probably isn't it. So let me try to find the right address here. Oh, awesome, user to you. Yeah. yeah, it was fun hearing about the MLOps.net project, and just seeing some of the stuff that the community is doing. Right, I was interesting to see that Discord bot. Right, I actually didn't know about it until about a week ago, but it's really cool. I thought it was really interesting. Let's see. And I know I didn't stop. Oh, you know what happened? What probably happened? I th- Actually no, I didn't set up a spot instance, so that shouldn't be a problem. We'll see. I hope the IP didn't change. Why? That's odd. That maybe I stopped it. Who knows? I don't remember stopping. I think that after a while it probably shuts down by itself if it's been idle. Okay, so I'm restarting the VM right now because apparently it likes to restart itself. Which, I mean, you know what? I'm not complaining because that's saving me money. But yeah. Anywho, how were your folks this weekend? Did you get to relax? I'm almost finished with, so I've never really gotten into it, but I'm almost finished with season 2 of Westworld. Um, Season 1 was okay. Season 2, even like halfway through, it was just like, eh. But towards the end of season 2, things start getting good. Let's see, all right. There we go. There's our new. Let's see. Yeah, let's connect to it. What? Hmm. Oh, I think it's because. There we go. It was AZ user, not Azure user. All right. Tmux LS. Oh no, that's right, because my Tmux. Anyway, because the thing was restarted, my Tmux is now gone. My Tmux session where I downloaded things. No worries though, because we are still in business. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. 1 and 2. So yeah. So far I'm about to finish 2, and I think 3. I'm not sure if 3 is out yet. I don't know if they posted season 3 yet. Um, but I'm excited. Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. Like for example, like Sopranos for me. Um, so I didn't watch it the first go around, like when it very first came out. But I've been trying to watch it. I've literally tried watching it probably like 5 or 6 times, and I always stop like halfway through season 1. But it's one of those shows where like once you get past like season 1, it gets better. All right, so CD data drive. Okay, CD data. Okay, so what I did before sort of logging off last time was I downloaded this Kaggle. Is it? No. Cannot temp file for what? No space left on device. What do you mean no space left? Oh, whoa, whoa. Hold on, hold on. Where is my... Did it shut itself off because it ran out of memory? I'm not seeing... Where's my 256 gig drive? All right, this is odd. Okay. Yeah, there's my SDP1. Are you telling me the mount didn't do it right? Man. All right, so this is like all the PDFs and whatever. CD, all right, so last archive. Come on, man. Last R H, okay. All right, so 2.7 gigs. CD archive. Okay, CC. Let's see. I wonder how you, let me see, how you can check the size of an entire directory. Check size of entire directory Linux. I wonder what that command is. All right, so if I go back, because it's definitely going to be this archive directory, the one that's going to du-h. Yeah, so 19 gigs is just this. What? Let's get rid of it. Oh, come on. No. So these the PDFs. So what I'm doing now is what we started downloading was the actual PDFs, which that's what we installed the GSUtil to do last for. That's why we installed the GSUtil last time. But we don't really need the PDFs just yet because we're not really going to be doing any NLP for the time being. Um, yeah, we're not going to be. We might not be doing any NLP for the time being. What we are interested in, though, is exploring the metadata a little bit. And I'm not quite sure what happened with the mounting here of the drives, but it seems like, sorry, not that one. It seems like in the mounting of the drives, for some reason, my 256 drive, which is exactly the whole intent of that, was so that the data lived there, doesn't seem to appear here. So something must have gone wrong with the mounting of that drive. I suspect with the reboots that may have done it, but again, if you reboot, I set it up so that it would automatically pick it up. I'm not quite sure what happened, but in any case, let's delete this for now because it seems to be giving us some problems. This archive folder, because that's what contains the PDFs, right? So, ref Kaggle. No, not Kaggle. I want to keep this one, and I want to sudo and remove the archive. And it should probably use, oh, it's done already. So now if we run this, we can see now that, where is it? We're only using 11 gigs out of the 29. So, and now it's nice and it likes to play. So let's do a little bit of last archive. Okay, we don't see anything, but that's essentially, it's just a JSON file that contains a bunch of things, right? Okay, exploration time. So tmux last, tmux notebook server. Okay, and what I want to do now, see notebooks. Okay, Jupyter notebook. Okay, doke. So let's start it up. So what this is going to do is it's going to start a Jupyter Notebook server for us. Which we can then use locally. Just grab this thing here. Let me actually go back to this. All right, so we're logged in. And let me get out of this tmux session, and I think we're good to go now to start working here. Is that fine for you folks? Can you see that? All right, let's start a new notebook, a new F#, and this we're going to call archive analysis. Archive analysis. All right. And one of the things that we're going to want to do first and foremost is we are going to want to install our NuGet packages. So I'm thinking I want to start off by trying to work with, so there's many different ways that you can work with data in F#. If ever in doubt, of course it's not gonna work. DuckDuckGo, and I don't know if that's my default engine. Anyway, we want is if you ever want to work with data, there's this really great package out there called f#.data, and you can work with all types of data, kind of what the name sort of implies. And some of that data includes JSON, and what it has is different type providers depending on the data that you have. And what these type providers allow you to do is they allow you to kind of access data as a type. So you tell it, hey, here's what my data looks like. You pointed to an example. Then what it does is it kind of like makes a request to your data, kind of, putting it simply. And it tries to make a type for your data. So you're able to access it just like if it was some sort of class or, if it was an object, right? So what you can see here, for example, here, there's some stock data, right? It's coming from a CSV. This is a CSV type provider. You tell it stocks and you tell it, hey, here's where my data lives. You then go ahead and load the actual data that you want, and then you can access the rows, right? And in this case, it's getting the first row. Let me actually zoom in so it's a little bit easier for you folks to read. And then notice how last date, you can now access it like if it had properties of the properties of a type, right? So in this case, you're telling it, get me the date and get me the open. And where you might think, like, where do those come from? Check it out. There's a column called date, and there's a column called open, and you're able to access this data that way. Likewise, there's a JSON type provider, and it works very much the same way, right? Maybe we might use these type providers, but I haven't had much of a chance to tinker with the data frame API. So if you folks are not familiar with this, it's github.com/net CoreFX lab. And actually, I could show you the NuGet. NuGet.org. And in the meantime, let me sort of paste F# data for you folks. Oh, sorry. There's the link for F# data. Here's the package that we're actually looking for is called Microsoft.data analytics. I don't know if it's analytics or data analysis. There we go. Microsoft Data Analysis. And basically, this has the data frame API. Data frame API, if you folks have worked with R or Pandas, for example, the data frame API is a data frame, which is just a way of representing data in the tabular format, and you can basically perform operations on this table, if you will, right? So again, very popular with Pandas in Python, and data frame, it's actually a fairly natural or built-in sort of construct inside of R. I don't know if it originated with R, but certainly it's one of the main, I guess you could call it, data structures in R. So, and where it lives, it's open source, just like .NET, and it lives in here in the CoreFX Lab repo. So take a look at that if you want to look at the source code, right? There it is, Microsoft Data Analysis, right? So you can have at it. So that's what we're going to want to work with. But in the meantime, our trusty way of getting stuff into Jupyter or .NET Interactive Jupyter Notebooks, we start with this $R, which is basically telling it reference. Here's a reference I want you to get. I want you to get from NuGet. And here, data analysis. Here is the 0.4, just to be a little bit more specific so that we know which version we're working with. Here it is. By the way, how is the video coming through? I see a message here telling me that the encoding was overloading and to turn down the video settings. Just want to make sure that for you folks it looks okay. All right, so now that's installed. Open my, whoa. Okay, and then we go ahead and we open it, right? And that's basically like if we're saying, if you're using C#, that's basically our using statement, right? Like our using Microsoft Data Analysis. Okay, so now that we have this, let's take a look at Microsoft Data Analysis. I wonder if they have samples. I'm pretty sure they have samples somewhere. Data analysis. So one of the things, unfortunately, at the moment that you don't get with Jupyter Notebooks is IntelliCode and IntelliSense. So let's see, that core sample. So it makes it really hard to explore the API surface of some of these objects because, let's see, CoreFX Lab. System text. How to use. Okay, so it's coming through on. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm just playing around with different settings here. So yeah, I'll try to see what works. Um, all right, so you know what? I might not get a lot of information here. Where I would get some information is, so this is just a, I don't know, pro tip, maybe. I don't know if it's literally a pro tip. If you can't find samples, and here I tried samples here, but I don't see anything for data frame. A really great way to maybe try to get some sense or make some sense of how to use a package is go to the tests. The tests are your best friend because chances are that they are testing how, basically testing the functionality of the package, and in doing so they're kind of basically you know they're essentially kind of showing you how it would be done. Create arrow string column. Let's see. So this is using data frame columns, but I don't want to make individual columns. I just want to load. Let's see. Load. Read. Make data frame test columns. Takes test binary. JSON. I wonder if I would have to read it in as a collection first, and then let's see, tests, Microsoft data analysis. Data frame IO maybe. Verify column types. CSV, read CSV, no header. Types and guess rows. So this is kind of what I'm trying to get. CSV. What if I don't have a CSV? Read CSV with extra column. Read CSV with all nulls. Read CSV. Read CSV. Okay, I don't want to read a CSV though. Binary operations, iData view. Do I have to create? See, I kind of want to not have to do this. I don't want to have to create a new data frame and then create individual columns for it. Let's see. So the tests aren't very helpful. I mean, they're helpful. They're just not showing me how I would do what I want to do. Let's see. Data analysis, data frame, IO, data frame. All right, so let's look at the surface here. Drop columns, data frame, an IEnumerable of data frame columns. All right, so I could create it that way. Filter, and these are all the operations that you can do on the data frame, this and okay, that's for indexing. Info, description, order by. Okay, so these are all the operations. Resize by 1, append, sort to string. Okay, it's not exactly what I'm looking for. Data frame join, data frame buffer, data frame column, row. Let's see here. I think we might be using the JSON type provider, to be honest. Maybe. We'll see. Because essentially by doing so, we should get an IEnumerable. And from there, yeah. Data frame IO. Okay. Guess kind, determine type, max kind. Okay, there's load CSV. What if I don't want to load a CSV? Load CSV. Okay, so you can only load from a CSV. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. I wonder if in the issues there's anything around load JSON. See if anybody. Okay. Load IEnumerable. Power collections, UTF-8, area system. Huh. Let's see here. All right. So what we can do here is, I wonder if system.text.json comes out of the box here. Because what let me see. Oh, come on. Oh, it does come out of the box. So what I'm gonna try to do is maybe read open system dot, and I don't need to have this in separate lines. Open system.text.json, and then open system.io. Okay, so what I'm gonna try to do here is load the file and then create an IEnumerable, convert these things, each of the columns, into a data frame column, and then load it into a data frame. It's not ideal, but let's see if we can do that. So let file equals file.open. What's the name of our file? Let files equals directory.list files. Actually, files equals directory.list file table. Does not field constructor. Directory methods. Enumerate directories, enumerate files. Okay, fine. Sorry about that. It's get files, not list files. Get files. Cannot find a path. Data drive, Kaggle. Empty. Terminal. How is it empty? Oh, it's data drive, data, Kaggle. Okay, that's why. Of course it would be empty because there's no files. Data, Kaggle. Beautiful. Okay, so one is JSON, the other one is that. Okay, so we're going to want to get we're going to want to use systemtext.json. I forget what the API itself looks like. Yep, JSON. And I think it's the serializer. Yeah, it's serializer.deserialize, I believe. Parses this text representing a single JSON value into an instance. Serialize. There we go. I guess the other thing that I want to take a look at is actually, let me make it head. Data drive, data, Kaggle, archive. I guess what I want to look at first is it's not each of these. So we'd have to define a type for it. All right, so we'd have to define some sort of type for our data. So actually, this is probably not the best way to do it, but let's take a look at Kaggle Arxiv Dataset. Okay. Let's take a look at things that we would want to see in this data set. So here's a sample snapshot. We want the ID, and that's going to be a string. All right. So article type, I don't know, article is equal to ID string. I think we're going to run into some issues because it's lowercase and I want to say it's ID. That's who the submitter is. I want the title. All right. So it's going to be title string. We might have to do something like a JSON property or something like that so that we can get these names to match with whatever's coming in. Categories, we definitely want that. And then the abstract. Yeah, this is good enough to start, right? Abstract string. Okay, so it's going to be an article. Now, what I want to do is let's see, files dot zero. There we go. So what we want to do now is we want to say files dot zero. Let's metadata equals files, and then file.open read all lines. Okay, I think that should be it, right? Just want to make sure. File.read all lines. Oh man. So this is the thing, right? File.read all lines. You forget the methods, and because you don't have IntelliSense, you kind of like, you know what you want to do. It's just yep. So read all lines, and this one's gonna be interesting because it's not exactly what I want to do. Let's see. There's read all lines, read all bytes, read all text. I think that's the one that I want. Read all text. All right. So because this one doesn't have, I don't think it's going to have read all text. Right, there's not going to be the the \n to read it, so we're going to have to go this way. Okay. I should have just used the JSON type provider. This might take a while. Because it's remember that it's 3 gigs of data that it's trying to read, so that could take a while. Yep, there it is. So the other thing is because it has to load, this loads everything into memory. You won't be able to inspect it all. So that makes sense. All right. We did go past though. It's 11:15, but then again, I also started late at 10:15. But I think this might be a good place to put a pause on it. Yeah, IntelliSense. Yeah, exactly. You know what's coming in. You know what's going out. You know, I personally, like I said, I love it. If you read, oh, I got rid of it. But if you read the post with Dave that I did, I said how much I love it. Yeah. And the thing is that, well, so here's the thing, right? Like F sharp is you could, yeah, it is strongly typed. The problem is it's not a F sharp issue. It's a Jupyter Notebook issue, right? So Jupyter Notebooks aren't very good at getting you, and I think you do get something. For example, let's see, file dot. There we go. Oh, okay. So there it is. My mistake. It wasn't even a Jupyter issue. It was a me issue. So, as a reference, we found this way at the end of it. But if you do, for example, whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? File dot tab gets you this. So we learned something today, even if that was towards the end. But even then, right? So the thing that's missing here, right? So although you get autocomplete, right, and some sort of IntelliSense, you still don't get information about the types, right? And that is a Jupyter thing, I think, right? So one thing was a me issue. The other thing I think is a Jupyter limitation for the moment. So yeah. But so now we're just gonna have to figure out how can we. I don't think that the type provider would account for this issue, right? About having to load everything into memory. we'll see how we get around this, so that we do this in sort of some sort of like streaming fashion, right? And as needed. So, but I think that this is a okay place to stop. I personally would like to keep going, but time. And I think next time that's what we want to solve. We want to solve how can we get this loaded and into a data frame. Yeah, I'm streaming on Wednesday, user to you. Coming back on Wednesday, same time, and I'm gonna be doing trying to solve this. I mean, it's a pretty, it's not a hard issue to solve. It's just the complexity comes from, okay, well, first of all, I got to load it, then I got to make it into a data frame column, which is kind of what the data frame accepts, right, from the documentation that we saw. And once we have it into a data frame column, then we can go ahead and actually load it into a data frame. And the reason why I want to load it into a data frame is for two reasons. Number one, I want to play with the data frame API. And number two, the data frame API does give you a lot of really nice functionality out of the box, right? So if you do something like describe, right, it's going to tell you basically like what your mean, like, you know, your information about your data, right? That otherwise you would have to code yourself, which again, I'm not opposed to doing, but if there's something that might make it easier, of course, I'm all for it. So anyway, it's a great place to put a stop to this for now. Next time on the stream, we're gonna try to solve this problem of how can we get this data loaded in some sort of streaming fashion, and